Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the executive. Are there any apologies for absence, please? None. Thank you, Elizabeth. Minutes of the meeting held on 20th of January. You're happy with that sign then? The record, I'm seeing nods around the table. Thank you. Does anybody have any declarations of interest on any matters on the agenda today? No. And public questions? Yes. Thank you. Okay, item 5, review of the public convenience service. I've decided to defer this to a later date because the working group only met, the report of the working group went to scrutiny last week. There were some amendments to it. So I think we need a little bit more time just to look at those amendments. And I think, Richard, this will give you some time with your officers to go through that. And then it can come back at a later date. So that takes us on to item 6, active North Yorkshire membership pricing review. Simon, can I come to you, please, to introduce it?
Yes, thank you, Leader. Can I begin by thanking David and his team for the huge amount of really diligent work in trying to understand and form some new cohesion to what was a very complicated situation across North Yorkshire post local government reorganisation in terms of pricing for our leisure services. There were in existence 70 different memberships and fees across the patch. And as we have moved together in the formation of Active North Yorkshire and the bringing in-house of all areas apart from Scarborough and Ryedale, which will come in next year, it has been imperative that we have one fair, coherent and transparent set of pricing across county. So my thanks to them for undertaking this work, which has not been easy. I think there are three important things to note when we look at our pricing. Part of the imperative in the creation of Active North Yorkshire has been to focus more fully on the well-being of all our residents in enabling all our residents to access our leisure services and to lead healthier lives. And we have a particular emphasis on working with other partners in health across the patch in developing programs that benefit those with particular needs. So that's very much underpinning of what we are trying to do in refocusing our provision of leisure. Secondly, we're very conscious of the fact that there were disparities in pricing across North Yorkshire. My ambition, and it's shared by officers, is that one day the benefit of being a resident of North Yorkshire and a member of Active North Yorkshire is that you can access any one of our leisure facilities from Dales to Coast, from the moors to Selby. There will be one pricing structure. And wherever you go in North Yorkshire, you will be welcome. But what we can't do in seeking to achieve that end result is penalise some of our residents disproportionately. The pricing structure that is envisaged does contain in it an increase for some of our residents in some areas. And if we were to bring harmony in now, those increases would be very substantial. And we do not want to turn people off using our facilities. So it's been a question of trying to find the right balance whereby we retain members and we grow membership. And we're not increasing the demand on the council taxpayer to help fund these services. So it's been a delicate balance for officers in assessing this. And I think that the conclusions that they've come to, the recommendations that they make are fair across the patch. But that does result in us having 2 tiers of membership. So facilities in Harrogate, Knaresborough and Ripon, which have been the subject of very considerable investment over the last few years. And nobody around the executive table can forget the money that was spent on plugging holes in Ripon. Those investments were made initially by the former Harrogate Borough Council on the basis of a business case. And their fees and charges were made on the basis of that business case. And so Harrogate, Knaresborough and Ripon were more expensive than other facilities in North Yorkshire. But that was the business case that was made to secure that investment. And we can't ignore that. But as I say, nor on the other hand do we wish to impose Harrogate and Ripon's and Knaresborough's charges on facilities that have not seen that investment. So we have, for the time being, a 2-tiered structure. But eventually the aim is for convergence. That is my ambition, is the ambition of officers. And then, perhaps just before going into the body of the report, I have, as you know, taken the vow not to speak too much in 2026. But before just delving into it a little, I would make this point. I have had correspondence. I know colleagues have seen some correspondence. One from Councillor Schofield, which was a fairly detailed questionnaire of various aspects of the report. He asked the executive members had sight of that and the responses before coming to a decision on this. I'm very grateful to David for producing a very detailed and full response, which was circulated to colleagues. Everybody's had the opportunity to read it. And then also colleagues will have seen an email from a resident who's a member of police force who lives in the former council area of Hambleton District Council and who uses the leisure centre. And it seems to have been the case that prior to local government reorganisation, sometime in the fairly recent past, the previous chief executive of Hambleton District Council allowed a 50% discount to members of the police and fire services. That is not replicated anywhere else in the county, never was. And it's a far bigger discount than is given to any other concessionary group, from the unwaged to the elderly to those in need of rehabilitation and on various programs. So it seemed to us that we could not replicate that across North Yorkshire, it would not be sustainable. There is a corporate membership which is a little more expensive than those members of the police and fire services previously being paid. Although, in fact, across the rest of North Yorkshire, that concession is cheaper. So it's a question of things like trying to be fair, trying to give concessions where it is right to do so, but not heavily favouring one group at the expense of others. So I hope we've addressed the concerns raised to us, and I know that our leisure team are picking up other concerns that that gentleman had about some of the facilities in first. So that said, Leader, the report is very self-explanatory in terms of bringing in tier 1 and tier 2 pricing. Where I think the officers have been even more fair than I might be is in acknowledging that those who have previously received concessions, and I'll perhaps just touch on them very briefly, do not feel an unmitigated hardship of the increase in fares or the abolition of some concessions. There were, for example, in Harrogate, 1,000 members who were told by letter, confirmed in writing, that their membership fees would never be increased, providing they remained members. I'm not going to comment on the wisdom of that from the point of view of a leisure provider that is in part council funded, but we are honouring that. We have taken note of what happened in Harrogate, Knaresborough, Ripon formerly, which was that the age concession, if I might put it that way, which in places like Skipton was 60, for no good reason that I can ascertain, actually conforms to the state pension age. But I think very generously the officers, they have decided that because we don't want to make undue hardship on people who are used to paying at a certain level, we want to retain their membership. We want them to keep active. We will not increase their existing memberships in the way that the new memberships will take place. So those concessions will still pertain. In general terms, there are some winners and losers, but in many cases, some will see a reduction. And I think for some of our Harrogate residents, those who use Starbeck and Paper Bridge, which have not seen investment, there is a reduction in their membership costs. I'm sure they'll welcome that, and that seems fair and equitable. So, Leader, all the various price bands and the concessions are set out in the body of the report. It's important to note that as part of the consultation that we've undergone with members of the public, we have got rid of 12-month contracts to give people more flexibility so they can be on monthly memberships. That was something that we were asked for, and we have responded to it. So if I could turn to the recommendations, unless there's anything Joe or David want to say at this point, anything, but I guess
yeah, only if agreed, we've got a plan to roll out effectively to firstly this pricing starting in April, but then the bulk of the pricing will launch in September, and we've got a communication strategy to support this to make sure everybody's forward.
Yes, thank you, David. And very much at the heart of all of this is the fact that our members are very important to us, and we're very important. It's very important to us to take them with us. So the recommendations reflect that. Firstly, the implementation of a phased approach to pricing consistency, with an initial implementation of a two-tier pricing structure, as I have mentioned. It's not the end aim, but it's where we must be at the moment. Removal of fixed-term contracts to improve flexibility and accessibility, and in response to customer feedback. To approve the implementation of a new concession scheme, including senior concession to state pension age, currently 66, increasing to 67 by the time that I will be getting it in 2026. Oh, sorry, I won't be getting it in 2026, but by the time I get 67. Approve the principles of introducing on-demand fitness and healthcare services, subject to further cost-benefit analysis and procurement. And this particularly has in mind, colleagues will note the proposals to develop a virtual offering so that our residents who cannot easily access our leisure services can still have access to fitness classes, and so on. And there are all sorts of exciting possibilities concerning access to GP consultations and so on. That's being worked up, and we'll come back to the executive when we finally got there. And finally, to approve the proposed Learn to Swim pricing model, maintaining free access to public swimming as part of the offer. And then finally, to approve the measures that I have touched upon to mitigate significant price increases and honour existing agreements for existing customers between 60 and 65 who receive an age-based concession. Current gym-only memberships at Harrogate, where they exist, and formal price for life agreements at Harrogate. Recommendations.
Thank you, Simon. Can I just repeat your thanks to officers for the amount of work that went into doing all the number crunching and looking at all the various policies that we inherited, and also for the response, the very full response to Councillor Schofield. Can I open it up now to any discussion, please? Anybody want to ask Simon any questions? Mark, please.
Well, firstly, thanks to Simon for that comprehensive introduction. And I welcome the report. As somebody who lives in the Selby area, I was concerned to see the price increase there, as you will appreciate. But I do understand that significant investment is going in as well, Simon, which is a positive, and I hope people appreciate that. The other question I would have, although obviously Tadcaster is certainly not in my area, is that the Tadcaster price is going to be the same as Selby. But and I have had emails from people who live in what was the former Selby district, but closer to Tad than Selby. The Tadcaster gym does not in any way, in my opinion, reflect the Selby gym. It's much smaller on a much smaller scale, and the amount of equipment, etc., there is not as great as the amount of equipment, etc., in Selby. Selby's got a swimming pool as well, but I appreciate, that there is a differential there. But I just welcome comments from yourself or officers as to why Tadcaster has been put in the same pricing structure as Selby.
David, do you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it's with a pricing structure that fits everybody and everybody's needs across the service. We're aware of that. At Tadcaster in particular, there is planned investment there in terms of brand new gym equipment that will be put into that particular site, along with some other associated improvements to the facility. And not least, there is a relationship with Tadcaster Swimming Pool that we've got an agreement with them, so there's access to the swimming pool in Tadcaster as well. And what I would add again, has been emphasised by Simon, is that actually membership is not just for a single site, it's for multiple access. So people in and around the Selby area can access Selby Leisure Centre if they do so wish to, but also then there's options moving over to the Harrogate area, and then we're riding Scarborough coming more as well. So there will be more flexibility within the membership facilities, and the quality of facilities will improve over time when we get the investment in place. And the pricing variations, there is an increase in pricing typecast there, but that'll be reflected in terms of the better offer that we now got in place, we believe.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else, please? Nope. I think it's a very comprehensive report. Thank you for that. A good thing for us to be doing to get this level of clarity to back up the investment.
Yes, I mean, I think it's very important to note perhaps two things. One is, lest anybody think otherwise, North Yorkshire Council does not make a profit out of the provision of leisure services by any stretch of the imagination. As my colleagues in finance would, I'm sure, remind me when it comes to budget setting time. And then the second thing, as you alluded to, Leader, is, of course, this sits hand in hand with the proposed investment strategy that came to the executive not very long ago, which sees an investment of £36 million across our leisure estate over the next few years, subject to the business cases making sense. This makes it more possible for business cases to make sense and to attract that investment. So, good.
Okay, so if there's nobody else wants to come in, it's been proposed by Simon very comprehensively. Could I have a seconder, please? Right, Richard, thank you. And can we have a show of hands, please, those in favour? Thank you. It's unanimous. Move on then, please, to item 7. Can we just accept the reappointment Parish Councillor Richard Daniel to the Ouse and Derwent Internal Drainage Board? Yeah, see nods around the table. I just wonder, Daniel, if we could just write to group leaders and let group leaders know that there are still some vacancies on IDBs. Not many now. Activated the forward plan. Heather, anything that we need to note about the forward plan?
Not a great deal. Merely that the 3rd of March has been vacated. So it does mean that the other executive March maybe is a little busier. That's all.
And we do need to have the deferred item from this morning to the forward plan in due course. But we'll make sure I have to do the check into place, but we'll leave it like that. Okay, and then there's no other urgent business for this morning. So with that, can I thank you for your attendance and your contributions, and close the meeting. Thank you.